Good morning. Transportation Committee for Tuesday, March 7th is now in session. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Representatives Beck, Burkhart, Butler, Campbell, Camper, Carr, Cochran, Darby, Davis, Glenn, Grills, Harris, Hazelwood, Hicks, Marsh, Martin, Powell, Powers, Rudd, Russell, Towns, Whitson, Wright, Vice Chairman Vital, Chairman Howell.
Here.
Mr. Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Any personal orders from committee members? Chairman Marsh.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to welcome my nephew, who is the new chairman of the Road Builders Association, Brian Marsh. Brian, welcome.
Welcome. Welcome. Representative Davis.
Thank you, Chairman. I just want to recognize my East Tennessee road builders. Thank you for coming today. Appreciate seeing you.
Representative Grills.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Back there in the far back right corner, there is Mr. John Ford from Ford Construction. He is one of my constituents. Y'all make him feel welcome.
Vice Chairman Vital.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to recognize all the road builders from District 2 and all those that build in District 2 because we got more to build. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
We are going to be busy in the next few years. Representative Burkhart.
Thank you, Chairman. Also, we have road builders here from Clarksville, and we appreciate y'all coming in. Thank you very much.
Let me just say, I'm impressed that you all got up to be at an 8 o'clock committee meeting. That's really impressive because you guys get up early anyway in the work that you do, and we appreciate the work that you do and appreciate the partnership that you have with TDOT and with the people of Tennessee to keep our roads in good shape and helping us to have some of the best roads in the United States. So we appreciate you and appreciate you being here this morning. We do have a short calendar, members, and I believe we have 6 bills on the calendar. So without further ado, we'll go to bill number 1, House Bill 1176 by Representative Garrett. Representative Garrett, I have a motion and a second, and I believe you do have an amendment that we need to put on this bill.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, that amendment code that I have is 4395.
That's what I have. All in favor of, do I have a motion second on the amendment? Have a motion and a second. All in favor of adding the amendment, say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Ayes have it. The amendment's on the bill. You're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The amendment does make the bill committee. I appreciate the time and able to present this legislation. What this legislation does is that for a metropolitan county of over 500,000 that has an airport, we are reconstituting that board and making the board appointments from 3 members of the House of Representatives here, 3 members from the Senate, 3 from the governor, and 1 from the mayor, the county executive of the metropolitan government the airport is located in. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll be happy to take any questions the committee has.
Members, you've heard the explanation. Do we have any questions for the sponsor? Representative Beck.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To the sponsor, is there a reason for this hostile takeover of the Metropolitan Airport?
You're recognized, sir.
Excuse me, I'm assuming you mean the Nashville Airport?
I do. What did I say?
You just said the Metropolitan Airport.
Metropolitan National Airport.
So you're meaning the Nashville Airport?
I am.
Right. I don't consider this whatsoever any type of hostile takeover of any authority that Tennesseans across the state provide funding to when the city that the airport is located in provides 0 funding. Over the past decade, this General Assembly and taxpayers across the state of Tennessee have paid $130 million to the airport, and it's paramount that we see on behalf of District 45 and all districts across the state that we have a partnership with the airport to sustain its longevity, to sustain the goals of the airport with the money that taxpayers pay to it. So I don't believe this is a hostile takeover at all. I think this is a partnership to secure the sustainability of the airport for years to come.
You follow up, sir?
Yes. Have you had discussions with the airport authority or its board?
You're recognized.
I have not had any discussions with the board. I've had some discussions with the airport authority personnel.
Follow up?
Have you had any discussions with the FAA that regulates our airport?
You recognize?
I haven't had any discussions with the FAA.
You're recognized.
Are you under the understanding that the FAA regulates this airport and has come out with strong language concerning the switching of any control has to be approved of an airport, has to be approved by the FAA?
You're recognized, sir.
Yes, and actually that's incorrect because the ownership, there's no new entity being created. So there's no change of ownership in the airport authority. This is simply a change of the board, which does not implicate the approval of the FAA because there's no change in ownership of the actual airport authority board. So it does not invoke an FAA's approval of changing out or appointing board members to this commission because there is no change in ownership. If, and this legislation has nothing to do with this, but if the legislation created a new entity where the actual airport authority board was becoming a new, distinct, separate entity, then that would implicate the FAA's approval, but that's not what this legislation is doing.
Follow up?
We're both attorneys, but what I've looked at says use the words control, doesn't use the word ownership. I know why you're relying on ownership. There's been this same technique was used in Mississippi at the Jackson, where the legislature did a hostile takeover of the city airport in Jackson. That hostile takeover is still in court 8 years later. So is there a reason that we just want to create another lawsuit in the great state of Tennessee?
You're recognized.
I don't believe it will create a lawsuit, but such lawsuit here, if anyone decides to sue based upon a simple appointments to a commission and not a change in ownership, that's up to them to decide, because as you know, as a lawyer, anybody can sue for anything. And if that's going to be the case, there's no way that I can speculate and no way that you could speculate or any lawyer in that aspect to say what would happen. But I do believe the legal opinion that we've received that says this does not constitute a change in ownership, a material change that would invoke an FAA approval of who appoints the board.
Could this be your final question, sir? We have
I-
other people on the list. Thank you.
I'll try to make it brief, Mr. Chairman. Are we looking at other airport takeovers? I mean, why are we just stopping at Metro? Why do we not take Knoxville, Chattanooga, and Memphis? Why just Nashville?
Mr. Chairman, this legislation only applies to a metropolitan county with 500,000. That's all this does. If you'd like to bring a bill that includes those airports, I'm sure there's a legislation that you could bring to do that.
Final question?
This same legislation tried to move through Georgia, take over Hartsfield, Charlotte to take over the airport. I don't understand when we have a airport that just went through a multi-billion-dollar renovation, is run so well. All airports are regional by their nature. You don't have an airport in every city. This airport was birthed by the city of Nashville, has been growing in an operation as long as I can remember, probably as long as you can remember. This hostile takeover of an airport is just wrong, and it's just wrong. Thank you.
Thank you. We have another, well, that name's been scratched out. I apologize. Any other questions for the sponsor? Question has been called on the bill without objection. We are voting on House Bill 1176. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Ayes have it. If you want to be recorded as a no, please see the clerk. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee.
Thank you. Item number 2, House Bill 769 by Chairman Holtzclaw. Have a motion and a second, sir. I don't believe you have an amendment. You are recognized.
Thank you, sir. Committee members, Chairman. HB 769, we're just updating one word in the code, which is TCA 55-9-202 in the Muffler Law. We're changing it from an and or or. The way it reads is no person shall drive a motor vehicle on any road, street, or highway unless the motor vehicle is equipped with a muffler in good working order and in constant operation to prevent excessive and or unusual noise and annoying smoke. The way it's been written, which was incorrectly worded, is right now the only thing that would violate it would be a diesel truck. So we're just updating the code.
Okay. Members, you've heard the explanation from the sponsor. Any questions? Question has been called without objection. We are voting on House Bill 769. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Your bill goes to Calendar and Rule, sir.
Thank you, Chairman, committee members.
Okay. If I could back up and do my first works over, I failed to mention, I believe, that Representative Garrett's bill goes to Government Operations. We now move on to House Bill number 3, House Bill 929 by Representative McKenzie. Good to see you, sir.
Good to see you.
The member of the committee has come back to visit.
I miss this committee.
We miss you. I believe you do have an amendment. Is that right?
I do. That member number is 4278.
That's what I have. We have a motion and a second on the amendment. Let's add the amendment to the bill. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Amendment is on the bill. Did we get a motion on the bill? Okay, just checking, making sure we do it right. So you have a motion and a second. You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And this bill is a really good bill. Simple. It simply deletes foster care out of the current code. So what it effectively does is allow all children within DCS to be able to obtain their driver's license permit without a fee. So it was just those children that are in foster care. So now it opens up that pipeline for kids that really are most needy and need our help and assistance.
Questions or comments from the sponsor? Seeing none, we have a question called on the bill without objection. We're voting on House Bill 929. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Your bill goes to Finance, Ways and Means, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and
Thank you.
committee.
Thank you. House Bill number 4 on the list. House Bill number 87 by Speaker Pro Tem Marsh. Representative Marsh, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Have a motion and a second.
Well, I do have an
Do you-
amendment, which is drafting code 4123.
That's what I have. Let's put the amendment on the bill. All in favor of adding the amendment to the bill, say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. The amendment is on the bill. You're recognized.
And the amendment does make the bill. I'll explain what it does. This legislation is a cleanup bill that updates various provisions in our towing laws, some of which are extremely antiquated and have been on the book since 1938. The bill cleans up the language in current law by adding rental vehicle companies to the definitions. There were some gray areas where this statute referred to rental companies, so this change seeks to address misinterpretation of the statute. The bill lines up the notice provisions for private tow with public tows so that private tow must verify ownership through the TIES system within 3 days of taking possession of the vehicle, and then provide notice within 3 days of verifying ownership. If this is not done, then no more than 6 days can be charged for a storage fee. The bill clarifies that towing companies shall have a right to a lien on a vehicle as long as the vehicle was towed in accordance with existing law. The bill also makes changes to the notice requirements by allowing notice to be sent by nationally recognized overnight carriers such as FedEx or UPS, in addition to registered mail. This should speed up notices to owners and be less burdensome to towing companies. With that, I'll take any questions.
Okay, you've heard the explanation from the sponsor. Any questions from committee? Seeing none, are we ready to vote? We are voting on House Bill 87. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Your bill goes to Calendar Rules. Thank you, sir. Moving on to item number 5, House Bill 661 by Representative Hicks. We have a motion and a second. You recognize, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I may sort of go out of turn here, I
Sure.
need to recognize somebody.
Help yourself.
I think I see it back there, Mr. Summers, Grant Summers from Summers and Taylor, a
Oh, yeah.
long-time road builder in Northeast Tennessee, and we appreciate everything you do. Thank you, sir.
I might add to that. They're doing a good project in District 22 at the present time.
Good.
You're recognized.
Thank you. Currently, only physicians and nurses operating under a collaborative agreement have the authority to issue certain statements of disability, which authorizes disability placards for individuals. House Bill 661 will allow a physical therapist to issue a certified statement of disability authorizing a patient to apply for the appropriate plates, placards, or decals indicating that they are disabled. Physical therapists evaluate the functional limitations of their patients and are able to determine the needs for a temporary or permanent disability placard. These folks will be able to actually devote 45 minutes to an hour, and it's my understanding that currently they pretty much do these evaluations now. So it's a really good common sense bill to make it simpler. With that, I'll renew my motion, Mr. Chairman.
All right, you've heard the explanation from the sponsor. Questions from the committee? If not, we're ready to vote on House Bill 661. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Your bill goes to Calendar and Rules.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you,
you.
committee.
We are to the end of the calendar, almost. Item number 6, House Bill number 818 by Chairman Whitson. Where'd he go? There he is, ready to. I knew you were here.
Yes, sir.
You're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, committee. We have an amendment on the bill, sir. Amendment number 4548. and
That's
that makes
what I
the
have.
bill.
That's what I have. I have a motion second on the amendment. We're voting on the amendment. All in favor, aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. The amendment is on the bill, and you're recognized, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In 2019, the General Assembly passed legislation attempting to reduce the number of people illegally passing stop school buses by allowing schools to install cameras on the outside of buses. Since the original passage of this legislation, we sadly have a better understanding how many people are actually running these stop signs and risking the safety of our children. Districts are reporting over 100 violations a year, and several report children being struck and seriously injured. Over the last several years, we have learned about some enforcement challenges due to a lack of clarity within our current statute. This bill provides that clarity and incorporates lessons learned from other states to help us better understand and stop these violators. This bill does two main things. It cleans up procedural and technical aspects of the school bus stop sign violation statute to provide clarity for enforcement and makes the fine for first-time violators consistent throughout the statute and sets the penalty for those that repeat the offense. It also establishes the penalty for those violators who run the stop sign and hit a child, resulting in injury or death. With that, Mr. Chairman, I renew my motion.
Thank you. Any questions for the sponsor? Chairman Rudd, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, sponsor. We had Representative Chairman Whitson and I had talked about this yesterday, and I just wanted to get it on the record and clarify with legal. We might need to go out of session, but I have questions. I want to make sure that either in existing law or in this law, that the burden for paying and installing these cameras is definitely the LEA, and that cannot be transferred to the bus owners. Because in many counties, the buses are subcontracted to private individuals, and either through contract negotiations or something, or intimidation, I don't want the burden for paying these cameras to be put on the bus owners.
So you're
Their
asking,
profit margins are very slim now.
Chairman, are you asking to go out of session?
Yes.
Okay. We're out of session, and we'll turn to legal to opine on that question.
Joel Hayes, Office of Legal Services. Representative Rudd. In subdivision 1 and section 1 of the bill, it does state that a local education agency, LEA, may purchase, install, operate, and maintain cameras on the exterior of buses, or may enter into a contract with a private vendor to purchase, install, operate, and maintain. So the responsibility appears to lie with the LEA. There is no mention of the actual owner of the buses that may be leased by the LEA.
I think the word may somewhat intimidates me. I just want to make sure that that because the local LA may still try to assume and tell the bus contractor to put it on there. I just want to make sure they're protected and not as best as possible if that's just absolutely guaranteed, or they can try to find a way around it.
The way I read the may in here is that it gives the LEA the option to do it themselves or to hire a third-party vendor to maintain, purchase, and install these cameras.
I'll accept that, and I would also ask that the sponsor of the bill say the intent of the bill is not to put the burden on the bus contractors. Thank
Any
you.
other questions for legal while we're out of session? You're recognized, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The fine of $250 to $500, it's court cost included in that?
You're recognized.
Give me one moment, Chairman Russell.
Thank you.
The legislation is silent as to court costs. It's treated as a non-moving, or it's treated as a citation.
You're recognized.
So if the fine is $250 and the court cost is $200, the actual fine might be $450?
That may depend. My understanding is that court costs vary from jurisdiction to jurisdiction.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for legal? Representative Powell.
Just to make it clear, the fine would be for not yielding or stopping for a school bus if additional footage was recorded, say a taillight was out or something that would be an additional, ticket. This legislation just makes it so that person is fined specifically for not yielding or passing a school bus. Is that correct?
You're recognized.
Representative Powell, this legislation contemplates two different ways a person can receive a fine or a charge for not passing a school bus. One is a citation only or a notice that's resulting just strictly from the video. And then that would be essentially treated as a traffic ticket. The other possibility is that if other evidence that's not solely dependent on the video, or if the video can identify the driver of the vehicle and other proof necessary to prosecute, then there's that option available for the state as well.
You're recognized.
Okay, but the offense would be specific to that violation, right? It could not be expanded beyond to other violations that person might do.
For the camera footage, it would be strictly for the failure to stop for the school bus.
Thank you for that clarification.
Any other questions for legal? Representative Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question would be that how you identify the person that's getting the fine as opposed to the driver may be different from the owner. Might be my twin brother. Can you speak to that?
This does describe a process of how a person can challenge or contest the citation or ticket if they have the position that they were not the ones driving the vehicle.
So would they go to court and plead their case that I wasn't driving, it was someone else driving my car that day?
That is one possibility. I mean, any citation that is issued to the person is to describe the procedures that the person must or can undergo to contest the tickets.
And the citation goes to the owner of the vehicle.
Correct. To
And
the
then the
registered
burden is
owner.
on them to prove that they weren't driving it, if indeed they weren't driving it.
Correct.
And would these cameras be able to have facial recognition and capture who was behind the wheel at that time?
It may depend on just the circumstances of how and when the footage was taken. How, it's possible that the footage can actually clearly identify the driver of the vehicle. It's also possible that it may only be able to get the license plate of the vehicle.
And one
To
follow-up
recognize.
is that, so if I get that citation because my car passed a bus and I go in front of the judge, the burden is on me to prove that I wasn't there. And if someone else, does the judge, how is he going to know who to cite if it wasn't me? Do I have to rat out who it was I let borrow my car that day? Is that how that works?
Under the legislation, there's a presumption that the owner, because of the vehicle is the one, there is a presumption that the owner of the vehicle is the one driving the vehicle for the citation. For any type of prosecution under the, for failure to stop for a school bus, then there's an additional burden of proof that the state must overcome or prove that the person being charged was actually driving the vehicle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Powell. Okay, we'll come back when we get back in session. Representative Grills, you have a question for legal? Okay. Any other questions for legal while we're out of session? We are now back in session. We have a couple of questions for the sponsor, Representative Powell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to commend the sponsor for the bill. Young children in school, but I'm constantly shocked and appalled with the number of people that do not yield to school buses and go around them, put the children in Tennessee at great risk and harm. And this is an issue we need to continue to work on, improve. I think technology, we can leverage technology to help stop this problem. I'd also think we need to consider using this type of technology also for emergency vehicles. I see ambulances, fire trucks, police officers, and people are not yielding and pulling over like they should. So, these are people that are out there putting their lives in danger and at risk to protect us. And and when it comes to these children, they're specifically just trying to go learn, have a productive day at school. And I can't imagine the kind of responsibility that falls on our school bus drivers these days. And so hopefully this technology helps prevent, and decrease this incident. And the people of Tennessee take it seriously to yield to the stop signs when these children are trying to get off the bus. So thank you, sponsor. I appreciate the bill.
Chairman Whitson.
Thank you. And also, I would like to add the video tape must be available for inspection by someone if they contest the citation. Just want to make sure that's cleared in the legislation. And also, I want to thank Chairman Rudd too. He did come to me with his concerns, and so again, as the legislation states, it's the LEA's responsibility. Now, if they enter into a contract with the school bus and they put that part of the contract, that is something between them and the contractor to determine on the cameras. But right now, the way the legislation reads is the LEA's responsibility.
Let's see, Representative Grills, you're on the list.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I may have two questions here. First off, what is the difference in the fines and the charges? Are they elevated in this compared to what current law is now?
You recognize.
Okay, thank you. Allow me to read this. This clearly established that the owner of a vehicle that is caught on camera not stopping for a school bus can receive a $250 citation for the first violation. Previously, it was only $200 and $500 for the second or following violations. The state can instead prosecute the driver of a vehicle for a Class A misdemeanor offense of not stopping for a school bus if the state can identify the driver, not just the owner of the vehicle, and otherwise meet the burden of proof. Also, it makes it a Class C felony to strike another person with a vehicle after failing to stop for a school bus. but it will become a Class C felony if it results in the death of a child or another person.
Do you have follow-up?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and sponsor. So if we have a school bus that has someone pass them, it's the school bus driver's responsibility to notify the LEA, and the LEA at that time will notify the police, and then they will receive the video, and then a citation will be given at that time?
Yes, it requires the LEA to enter into a memorandum of understanding with local law enforcement. And now it requires the MOU that they enter into to preserve the evidence for the local law enforcement. It also authorized the LEA to reimburse local law enforcement for the cost of evidence review and enforcement, in addition to what the LEA can already use these funds for.
Follow-up?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir, for that question.
Last on the list is Chairman Russell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And who's responsible for maintaining the videos and the maintenance of the equipment?
You recognize.
The LEA.
Okay.
You recognize.
If something happens to the videos, is it possible the bus drivers could be charged with destruction of evidence?
That is a what if question. I can't answer that. I don't know why the bus driver would destroy evidence if something technical malfunction or what. But the whole purpose of this legislation, gentlemen, is to protect school children and
Yeah.
stop school buses, not the driver of the car who passes it.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, we're ready to vote on House Bill 818. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Bill goes to Finance, Ways and Means, Chairman. That completes our calendar. We did it in record time. Any comments, questions, or announcements before we adjourn? Do I hear a motion? We are adjourned.